Hello everyone, welcome to the Classical Drunks. I'm here with Manny. Say hi, Manny.
Hello.
And I'm your co-host, Aaron. How you doing? Having a good day?
I'm pretty good.
Cheers.
Cheers. I actually finished my drink.
Ah,
I have to get another one.
Fucking alcoholic.
Yes. Absolute lack of preparation.
We're not even started it and he's already drank his drink.
I was thirsty.
Okay. Actually, I'm nearly done too.
Yeah.
So, this week, guys, we're going to be talking about Stephen Fry, actually. We're going to start with him. He's been in the news. Here in Ireland, he's actually been brought up on, he's been investigated for blasphemy charges. Yes, that's right. Ireland actually has blasphemy laws. I can't believe it either. We're very backwards in this kind of a way. Just to catch everyone up, a few years ago, Stephen Fry was on a RTE television program called The Meaning of Life, in which he was interviewed about his belief in God. And they did this with multiple celebrities, not just Stephen Fry.
Or to be more specific, in this case, his lack of belief.
Or his lack of belief
belief in God.
I think, I can't remember if there was any more atheists on, but he was definitely the one that made the big stir for the TV show because of his lack of belief in God. He then went on the TV show and criticized God. He mentioned a few things about how God was immoral because he could have easily created a creation in which children didn't have bone cancer, or there wasn't all these horrid earthquakes, or so on or so forth. We'll throw in a bit of the audio clip there just to let you hear it. And if you want to go look it up yourself, because it is a very good interview.
Suppose what Oscar believed in as he died, in spite of your protestations, suppose it's all true, and you walk up to the pearly gates and you are confronted by God. What will Stephen Fry say to him, her, or it?
I will basically, what's known as theodicy, I think. I'll say bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare you create a world in which there is such misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain? That's what I would say.
Right, so after we've done that little blasphemous piece there, and we're now going to be in trouble with the authorities.
Yes.
Don't worry, I'm going to be fine. Manny's the one who's going to get deported.
Well, Le Pen hasn't won, so it's okay.
It's fine.
I don't need to apply for political asylum.
He won't get that triggered.
Yet.
But, yeah, so we're going to do like a quick recap of why Stephen Fry was brought under these charges. So someone went to the police and...
We don't know who.
We don't know who, but...
Maybe
someone,
just a random lad. Maybe someone high profile, so that's kind of the
I can
question.
picture them as being the kind of shitty person that you just someone who has no life and got offended by someone on the TV and decided to press charges.
The kind of person who has notebooks and keeps track of, the neighbors' kids who are littering.
Yeah.
In the streets.
Went to the police and asked for this to be investigated as blasphemy. And in Ireland, actually, blasphemy is in our constitution. Our constitution, written in 1937 by one of the founding fathers of this country, but also by a pope or a bishop, I believe, at this point, had a lot of influence in it. And so it ended up being quite pro the Catholic Church. But that caused a blasphemy clause to be put in there. Which until recently actually hasn't been put into statutory law. In 2009, the Defamation Act 2009 added blasphemy as a criminal offence in this country,
which is one of the weird bits. So
that's very strange
because something had to be done about that. My understanding is, and I'm not a legal expert, but my understanding is something had to be done, and the government had essentially two options. Option A was organize a referendum during economically troubled time, or pass a legislation that actually puts into law that constitutional protection. Mm-hmm. So they took the option that would draw the least amount of popular attention, I would guess, I would venture. And we ended up with a law that codified exactly blasphemy and how to get convicted for blasphemy.
Yeah, exactly. So if you look at the law itself, it basically says blasphemy that causes offence of a large amount of people is an offence in Ireland.
And that was the tricky point here, because so Stephen Fry, there was only the one guy
who made the complaint. Yeah,
who made the complaint.
So it's not a large amount of outrage.
Yeah. So the investigation was dropped.
But can I point out something about that law though? Because in that case, if someone was to know about this law, okay, know the legalese of it, they would say, oh well, for this to like go forward to actually be charged, it means I have to create a huge amount of outrage. It's actually encouraging like outrage if you want, let's say,
in a sense,
someone
yes.
to, it's encouraging large amounts of outrage.
You want to agitate your fellow church attenders or whomever that might be, and say, well, you have to be outraged.
Yeah, we need to get lots of people to complain about this, and we need to hold demonstrations or whatever to, actually get this law activated in a way.
Yes.
So, that's not really a great way to write a law in that case, to encourage outrage for its use.
Well, which was, again, if you're putting yourself in the mindset of a government that's kind of forced to implement it, I can see them trying to find and put in place as many hoops to jump through before actually triggering the offense, the legal dispositions.
So if you go down below to the next line in the legislation, you find that as well. It's just a small bullet list of little loopholes added to that blasphemy law. So there's a few in there, like you have to cause large amounts of outrage. If it's to do with art or culture, I think it gets loopholes. But yeah, it's still, the fact that it's on the books is just it's saddening.
Yes,
we're the only Western nation in the world to have implemented a blasphemy law in the 21st century. It's a joke, an international joke.
Yes, because you would have other Western countries that have such laws. Denmark, to my knowledge, New Zealand was in the news recently because of that. But those were not laws. There were just laws that were in the book for ages, and nobody really paid any attention. The difference is Ireland put that into law in 2009, which is the most outrageous part of it.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Not to use. It's like it's almost like the current year.
Yes. In 2017. Oh my God.
How could someone do this in the current year? Obviously, it isn't an argument, but it is when you kind of juxtapose it to how far the rest of the world has come.
Yes. And so New Zealand actually announced that there is the debate has been kind of revived in New Zealand to abolish their existing blasphemy laws.
New Zealand.
Thanks to that Stephen Fry controversy. That's really good. Some good came out of it.
Mm-hmm. So this is the first time the blasphemy law in Ireland has ever been attempted to be used. There was some other occasions. For example, I can remember during the Charlie Hebdo attacks.
Yes.
In France. That was when the cartoonists were shot by Islamist extremists. There was a big debate on RTE, our public broadcaster, as to whether the images would be shown in newspapers related around this law. And there was actually one Islamic scholar, Imam Dr. Ali Salim of the Clonskeagh Mosque, who went on to RTE and said that they should not be shown. And then he said that he would investigate and look into using this blasphemy law to see if that was if this would stop newspapers from publishing, and if they did, possibly have them face legal consequences. So even though it doesn't have to be used, it can still be used as a threat, and there is a chilling effect related to that law.
So that's the crucial point here, is that the law was never used, but the mere threat, the mere idea that it might be used if the newspapers publish those cartoons. So we ended up in a situation that absolutely no Irish newspaper they talked about the attack, they talked about what happened, but no one showed those cartoons, the cartoon question.
That's actually something very interesting. Like I'm not sure as to whether when they were writing the law, they have a lot of like, you know, it's really badly written. So, you know, they have a lot of ways out of it. But if you actually do get charged with the actual offence, it's actually fairly stringent things. Like you can get a prison sentence, I believe, and there's a €25,000 fine, which is, you know, not throwaway money. You know, it's not like a small bit of cash, even for a newspaper.
Maybe for you.
Oh, sorry.
But you know, when you get that
Mr.
Monsanto
fucking moneybags over
when
here.
you get that Monsanto money, you know, it helps.
Sponsored by Monsanto.
Yes.
I fucking wish.
So no, yeah, that's a very important point. So and so this debacle, I think that word is appropriate here, kind of prompted us to talk about not just the specific event, but we want to talk about free speech in more broader terms, because as we said during our kind of introductory episode, free speech is one of the core values that we uphold. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really get into it in more details, and I know that some of you had questions around it, so we're happy to actually talk about free speech, what we believe in and what we don't believe in when it comes to free speech. Yes.
Yeah, so free speech. So there's a few things I think we'll caveat with free speech. Firstly, if we start from the baseline that free speech in general is good. It's a public good. It's something you can't prohibit in general. What's the word I'm looking for? It's
it is an essential freedom.
It's not like you seek permission to say anything. Anything is go, and then there are a few small things which need to be prohibited. But
which is the concept of a freedom.
Yeah, freedom. It's a freedom. Yeah.
If you're free to travel, it means you can travel without asking the permission beforehand. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a privilege. If the government has to grant you the right to do anything, then it's not a right. Yeah, it's a privilege.
It's a privilege. Exactly. There are one or two things that we'll go through, which, in terms of limitation, so I think we'll go through them now, I guess. The first one would be defamation. So defamation basically being, if I lie about you in public and say, Manny's a terrible coder. No. Not something like that. But if I say Manny...
Manny received money backs from Monsanto.
Yeah.
On Thursday morning.
That's a lie. That's a smear.
Yes.
That can actually like do harm to you.
And it is demonstrably false.
Unfortunately.
Because I could use some of that Monsanto money.
You've got enough money, man.
Okay.
But
I get it from big oil.
But that can actually do you harm. It can do your reputation harm. So that in a way of that doing you personal harm means that should be a limitation. You should not be able to lie about someone and make impact on their character or, you know, reputation in public. So that's fair enough, I think. I have no problem with that. Second one would be any calls to violent action. So, you know, if I say, Manny's a horrible person, he should die.
And you should kill him that day, tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Or even if Manny's a horrible person, he should die. They don't have to state a specific time or place.
Yeah.
You know, who can really fit murder into their busy schedule these days? You know,
I'm pushing it to the extreme. But
it needs to be flexible. Murder needs to be flexible. You know, it's like the gym. You just need to find ways to squeeze it in. You know,
it's all about regularity.
Yeah,
it's just like the gym.
So any violent calls to action, or not, you know, just to cause someone harm. So
yes. Yeah. So, but that's an important point. It's not. It's a call to action isn't just an abstract or obscure or, you know, second degree type of idea. It's again, there's a demonstrable aspect to it. Mm-hmm. If you say, I have a strong disagreement with that person publicly, and someone acts on it, and you're like, well, I never asked for that person to be removed. I said I have strong disagreement. You know, so a call to harm, there is a direct aspect to it, and there is also a demonstrable aspect to it. So if you just say, I don't like that person, that's fine. You can say, I don't like you, I don't like Emmanuel, I don't like that podcast. And if someone decides to act on it, well, that person obviously doesn't have all his brain working.
Yeah.
But it's different than just saying, Emmanuel and Aaron have to die. This is different.
Leave your hate speech in the comments. Thank you.
Yes.
So a third one would be harassment. Now, this concept of harassment is a bit wishy-washy.
It can be at times.
It can be.
It's like porn. You say you know when you see it, but to define it into law is a whole different question.
Yeah.
But in a kind of a obvious, obvious harassment is obviously wrong.
Yeah.
There's no question there.
Well, that's why a lot of those harassment cases are usually, they're a lot more complex.
Yes.
And they usually go to jury trials. So it usually
and that's what I was
ends
going to say.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to leave that to the judge.
Yeah.
That's why we have judges in the first place. The law itself, it's always something that's kind of complex. And that's why we have judges. We have judges to go and look at those complex, more fine-grained questions.
Yeah. It'll go to either judge or it'll go to jury. So it's generally then left up to either the legal interpretation or the jury. So the common man sort of interpretation of what harassment is. So, it's very nebulous in a way.
It is. It's one of those concepts where you're like, I know when I see it, but defining it in specific terms is a bit more, can be nebulous.
Yeah.
To put it this way.
Yeah. So the next one is actually fairly easy to define. Thankfully, it's fraud. So that's really handy. It's just, does something equal true? If yes, it's not fraud. If no, it's fraud. There we go. And usually there's then a loss of something from that, either reputation.
Yes. So if you sell a product and you advertise it as containing certain properties and those properties are not there, it's it's kind of within the same logic of you kind of find a similar thought process as what we were talking about when it comes to defamation. It has that idea of it's demonstrably true or false. So there is an objective aspect to it.
Absolutely. You've promised these requirements. You haven't met them. That's fraud. Or well, it's not necessarily fraud, but like you could have just shipped a faulty product. But usually then you would be required under consumer laws to replace or refund.
Unfortunately, that does not apply to political speech, which would be
it doesn't.
very fun because I promise if I get elected that everybody's going to be happy and no more disease. It'll be, if we could put a politician in front of a judge for saying, well, that's fraud. it'll be a fun concept to entertain.
It would be. Unfortunately, they're not selling a product really, but I can see where you're going with it. Yeah. Interesting. I never thought of it that way. That's very good.
Yes. Well, again, it's and they can pull all sorts of excuses. So
I think
it would never be applicable.
Yeah. I think there's some things that obviously you can't, like people just shouldn't promise in the first place, but no one takes them seriously to start with. So
yes,
especially with weird things that have lots of variables, like services, for example, maybe even in some cases like a PR firm. It's like you can't guarantee that this is going to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But even like you work in pharmaceuticals and you don't promise absolute certainties when it comes to drugs. You say, well, according to our research, this is what it does, but those are you have a lot of you have a certain probabilities that kind of come into play. So
yeah.
We
people do their best, but like
yes,
still, yeah. So and the final one I think which we've come up with is privacy.
Breach of privacy. There is a little bit of an overlap with harassment in a way. One could argue, but there is that idea of if you're breaching into someone's privacy, you're crossing a sort of line.
Yeah. I think we need to define privacy a little more because this can be a bit nebulous as well. Like I've come across people who have said, like, because I like to do street photography sometimes, and I've come across people who in the street have told me, don't take my picture. Sorry, you're in a public place. You don't know, expectation to privacy when you're in a public setting. Even within a private business, you're still technically within a public setting, so you're still technically allowed to take their photo.
Yeah.
Unless the business owner says that you can't.
I would grant that may, like, you know,
So
playing devil's advocate, that's a bit of an edge case in a sense. There are obvious cases in which, if you're in the privacy of your own home, and someone is taking a picture of you through the window, definitely that's a breach of privacy. And
That's
and,
your property, though.
Yes.
That you're taking a picture
Oh, absolutely,
of.
yeah.
So I think that's slightly different.
Yes.
Especially when it's into your property, you know?
Oh,
Especially when
absolutely.
it's through the window. That's yeah.
Yeah.
You have the right to expectation of privacy in your own home, I feel. Now, if you
definitely.
don't put up blinds and I accidentally take up a picture, I you know.
And, you know, keep it for your personal entertainment.
Yeah.
Well, you're not putting it on a newspaper.
There is this kind of idea with around privacy, which is kind of interesting, actually. We're going slightly off topic, but like if I'm, you know, sending naughty pics to my lover or something like that on my phone, and you know you take a photo in the room and you get that. Is that a breach of privacy? Is my phone my property? So. Yeah, it's interesting.
You're talking to someone who does not have any sort of legal training.
Yeah, true.
But that'd
true.
be a very good question to entertain.
Maybe for another day.
I mean, I would go and definitely talk to the person who's looking at your dick pics in a public setting, because that's not, you shouldn't send naughty pictures to that person. I would say, like, the expectation is, oh, I'm gonna get naughty pictures, let me withdraw to a corner.
That the danger adds something to it, Manny. I just can't stop. Okay.
Just make sure there's nobody in your back. Like, even if you're in the middle of a crowd, make sure that nobody's behind you.
Okay. Don't open dirty pics in public spaces, people.
You know, in the middle of a party. If someone else is looking at your phone, that's a life hack.
Really bad story I'm going to tell, actually. I one day was in a lecture hall where there was a guy in front of me viewing porn for the entire lecture. The entire lecture.
The entire lecture?
Yeah, I don't know how he did it. It was impressive. Was
it like a challenge?
No. He didn't seem that interested in the lecture and decided to watch porn instead with his headphones in.
Okay.
This is what happens when you don't pay for education. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
He's not.
So,
but anyways,
we'll move on.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a kind of a line, a common theme, if you've of all the caveats that we've outlined. I think it's important to notice that you and I, first off, I would say are in at least in relative terms, we are kind of a free speech absolutist, and that we do believe it's really important. So even us, we do acknowledge that there are limits to speech. I think that was the kind of the point that we were trying to make there, that no one is saying free speech was absolutely no limit. That's not anyone's point. The point is to say, when we say we believe in free speech, it means that outside of those exceptions, any speech is should be allowed. Mm-hmm. That's what a freedom is. So if you start to say, so in the case of blasphemy, you outline a specific topic or a specific type of speech, and you say, well, that's not allowed. Mm-hmm. You don't have free speech if you can't criticize a religion. You don't have free speech if you can't draw, if you look at the older cartoons, the less controversial cartoons of Charlie Hebdo, where they were really talk about obscenities, having Jesus in an orgy with God and some other religious figures. They were just published, and no one dares to say that this is not free speech. It is free speech to do such a thing. Mm-hmm. And the through line of what we were saying in terms of the caveats and the exceptions is we were talking about speech that harms individuals.
People, yeah.
Yes, specific individuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can I'm going to do a shout out. Michael Nugent of Atheist Ireland throws around this kind of idea a lot, which I really like. It's really quick. It's really simple. You have rights. Your ideas don't have rights. It's very simple. You know, the law is there to protect you, the individual, but not your ideas. They are open to criticism. And this is a good thing. You know, we should be able to criticize ideas, especially bad ideas.
Especially bad ideas. And so that's the important point here, is that you cannot claim to say that we have free speech if you list ideas that are not open to criticism, or if you list ideas, and that, again, not attacks on people, ideas that cannot be expressed, that then you don't have free speech. And I think that in that sense, in a lot of so-called modern Western countries, we don't have free speech.
Yeah.
If you take even the extreme case of Holocaust denialism, well, if you can't say that the Holocaust never happened, and even it's a horrible idea to entertain, but if you don't have the right to say that idea, and it's not causing any harm to any specific individual to say such a thing, well, then you don't have free speech, period. Yeah. You can just say, I don't believe in free speech. Okay, fine, but just acknowledge that it is free speech to be able to say even such horrible things.
Mm-hmm. I will second Manny about the whole Holocaust thing, everything he said there, including the fact that it's, you know, a horrible thing to say that it never happened, but you should still have the right to say, I don't think it happened. You know, you have a right to be an idiot.
Exactly, yeah. Be an asshole, that's your right.
You have a right to be an asshole and an idiot.
Yes, and counter with more speech, because I can speak from experience, because we have laws in France on the book that criminalize denying the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. It's only made one thing. It has straightened. It's given more strength to those conspiracy nuts, because it's like, look, I'm right. It's the truth, because the government is trying to bury it.
Absolutely.
But if you just go and say, like, think about the flat Earth theory. No one takes these people seriously, because all you need to do to discredit them, let them hang themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like, if you say they're not allowed to say it in public, they're not going to say it in public. But what are they going to do? They're going to go online. They're going to find each other, and they're just going to reinforce their own ideas. They're going to go in
public, and they're going to say in public, "I am not allowed to talk about this subject in public."
Yeah, but if you do that, then they're going to just go online and find each other and reinforce the ideas and just create an echo chamber for themselves.
Yes.
And even though they might be saying it in public, you're still going to have a lot of people who think this. And yeah, it's just going to reinforce them. So, you know, whereas if they were allowed to say it in public, their ideas would be challenged.
And just look at what happened with Stephen Fry. That interview happened 2 years ago. It went viral. Mm-hmm. It did a lot of noise at a time. But then people moved on. And now we're talking about it again. Mm-hmm. Now it's back, front page of all newspapers, on the television, because someone tried to silence Stephen Fry. Now that all his speech, all the things that he said are front and center of every major news organization. So that's not really, if you're trying to shut down someone, you know, it's the Barbara Streisand effect.
Yeah.
Something that no one really cared about, or just something of the past. Now it's brought up and it's everywhere.
Yeah. It's had the complete opposite effect. It's great. It's wonderful. So another thing that free speech does, we'll kind of move on to the positives of free speech, I guess. One of the positives being it actually protects minorities. Not like ethnic minorities. Well, it also protects ethnic minorities, but it protects minorities of thought, kind of.
Bullying, or like thought producing. But that's an important point, that we live in democracies. Mm-hmm. So that means that whatever happens, the laws that are in the book are always going to be the product of the majority. Yeah. So
allowing the minority to speak out
and giving them a protection.
Yeah, and allowing them to make their arguments as well is important. You know, as well, the fact that if we don't allow people to speak, we have to either, one, enforce violence to ensure they don't speak, or two, they will get violent. Because if you can't solve issues in society through words, you're only left with fists and guns. And
Yes.
yeah,
So
that's the only other way. So I will take speech any day over a fist fight.
So there are a couple of points to unpack, I think, here when it comes to violence. There are two aspects. So the first aspect is, yes, if you want to enforce that kind of laws, if you want to enforce laws that limit free speech, it means at some point you have to throw people in jail.
Yeah.
Because what happens if someone says something that's forbidden? Let's say tomorrow we forbid someone, we put a law in the book that says anyone who says 2 plus 2 equals 5 is going to be, it's forbidden. But okay, I say 2 plus 2 equals 5. What happens? Well, I get fined. But if I continue, if I just insist, go on the radio again and again, say 2 plus 2 equals 5, what's the logical outcome at some point?
Well,
I'm going to be thrown in jail.
Yeah. And
So
that you're still wrong.
yes, so that's one.
You've triggered me with bad math.
Yes, absolutely. So that's one aspect of the violence. The second aspect is, as you said, speech is how we determine what's right and wrong, and you're gonna resort to violence otherwise, whether it is, be it the police intervening and throwing you in jail, or through actual we've seen what happens in especially recently in America, all the fist fights between the Trump supporters and Antifa. Those are people who can't talk to each other. They can't communicate.
Yeah.
So what do they have left?
They
Sticks.
sticks and stones. That's all they have left.
Yeah.
They physically, have to confront each other because they can't do it with actual words. It's kind of really sad. To note that though, you don't have to technically uphold other people's speech. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. You don't have to support it. You can just walk away. You don't have to take it. But that would be a much better scenario, I feel, than going to fists. But you still have to let them talk. You still have to let them have their place in the public square.
Yeah,
but you're not forced to listen.
I would say also there is.
I think the people who go out to the Trump rallies and to make trouble, and the Trump people who want to go out to those rallies to make trouble, they're there to make trouble.
Yes.
I don't think they're interested in conversation at all.
So there's kind of a
They're
meme.
bad free speech advocates.
There is a meme that gets thrown around there that says, free speech is only about government not preventing you from speaking. Well, that's just plain wrong. There is, so in America, for example, it's the First Amendment that says government Congress shall make no law that to limit free speech. But that's First Amendment. That's not, outside of America, the First Amendment doesn't apply, and free speech is still an idea. It's still a thing. So when you codify free speech in what the government can do to your speech, you get something like the First Amendment. But that's just one aspect of free speech, as you said, disrupting a rally, disrupting a public event. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of what the government can do or not do to your speech. That's a different question. It still is a violation of free speech, because free speech is not just the First Amendment of the American Constitution.
Yeah, it's not just what the government lets you say.
Yes, it's
what
an idea.
Society lets you say.
Yes,
yeah.
And that idea that it's only censorship when the government does it. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous beyond belief.
Yeah,
for starters. And then there's the idea that, that idea of no platforming. It's like, well, it's not censorship that we're pressurizing, putting pressure on hotels and universities and town halls and whatever to deplatform you. It is another form of censorship, whether or not you want to admit it, because you believe that you have the moral higher ground on this question. The fact of the matter is you're preventing someone from speaking.
Yeah.
So free speech is, at some point, it also means for you to just step down and just move on and just do something else and criticize them on your own platform if you want to, but don't be a.
Yeah.
I was going to get rude, but just let them speak.
Yeah, and what? Again, like I said, let them speak. They have their equal access to the public square, and if you disagree with them, counter their points. Don't shout them down, but counter their points in a civilized way.
And it is counterproductive.
Yeah.
Like all that university nonsense that's happening, we only talk about it because it's on the videos on YouTube. That's the only reason we talk about it. It's because someone made a fool of themselves in Trigglypuff. No one would have heard about what happened there, or no one would know what's DePaul University.
Yeah.
The only reason we know DePaul is because of what happened there, and because someone went on stage. That's the only reason we know about what happened. Otherwise, it would be a non-event.
Yeah. Just to really quickly recap for people who don't know DePaul. DePaul's a university in the United States where a lot of speakers have been shouted down
By students.
By students.
Yes.
For being
And that's
bigoted,
the only
racist,
reason-
whatever words they want to throw out there.
It only gave them publicity.
Yeah, and it only made them incredibly famous
Because
speakers.
the next day, when they did that with Milo Yiannopoulos, no matter what you think of Milo, the next day he was on all the news channels talking about what happened to him.
Yeah.
If no one came that day, if it just nothing happened, it would have been a non-event.
Oh, absolutely.
And that'd be the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One more thing I'd like to just really quickly address before we wrap up, if that's okay, would be religious freedom laws, which seems to be a kind of a weird thing which is happening now in the States. I don't know if it's going to get repeated here in Europe.
I don't think so, because Europe is massively going through I don't have a right word, but de-religionization?
Secularization.
Massive. Yeah, it's stronger than that. People are becoming atheist at an incredibly fast rate.
Yeah. Well, same in the States. They've made a huge jump in their atheist population, but it's still a tiny minority.
It is still a minority.
Yeah.
And in Europe, it's becoming the norm.
Mm-hmm. So these religious freedom laws, excuse me, these religious freedom laws, they kind of guarantee freedom of religion, or the freedom to practice your religion and preach your religion, which already seems to be kind of codified under their First Amendment. So it's very strange. It's almost in a way that they're saying religious speech is in a way special.
Yes.
It's got extra importance or extra privilege to protect it, which is, we just want to point out that it's religion is just the same as any other idea. It's an idea, and so it should be treated equally under the First Amendment, equally under the law to any other ideas. AKA being open to criticism, being open to being preached if it wants to be. So yeah.
It ties back to what we started with. Freedom of religion means so. It is linked to freedom of expression. You express your religious beliefs, and that's, I think, I even myself as an atheist, I do believe it's very important that you can express your religion. There's no question there. It is still a body of thought. It is, for lack of a better term, I know it has a negative connotation, but it is an ideology, and I don't think it needs special protections, but it does need to be protected just like any other ideas.
Yeah.
And we have these new terms. So far, we always heard of blasphemy in kind of a Christian context, but now we also saw the new meme of Islamophobia, which is just blasphemy for Islam. Yeah. And we don't feel like Christianity, just like Islam, we don't feel that either requires specific treatment or exception. Those are ideas, and they need to be. So my concern is, today we say you can't criticize Christianity under blasphemy law. Are we going to see, through the play of the game of identity politics, are we going to see now at some point the left championing blasphemy laws if they get renamed to anti-Islamophobia laws? Because we do see that happening in Canada now. They're introducing new legislation where you cannot criticize Islam.
Yeah, they're being very weird about it in Canada. So it seems like, Canada, very secular country, actually. They've kind of, they have their very conservative religious right. But it seems that, they've kind of tried to battle down the blasphemy laws there. And, you can openly, celebrate your religion, or it can be criticized. But it seems that now we have kind of Islamophobia creeping up as the new buzzword term. This time not pushed by the Christian right, but instead pushed by the left. And it seems that they
But
want
those
to
are
have
the same. Those are the two same side. Those are the two sides of the same coin.
coin. So, like, it's kind of annoying, having maybe a few decades of having to kind of bash down
Yes.
this blasphemy idea, and then for it to just re-emerge with a different name seems
And you see an
ridiculous.
alliance creeping up of religious fundamentalists from the Christian and the Muslim faith
Yeah,
trying to defend that. And now you have those new useful idiots on the left who are saying, oh yeah, you can't criticize Islam. And that's just,
even though they feel it's okay to criticize Christianity.
yes, it's just another form of blasphemy
Yeah.
that we're trying to introduce, and that's bizarre.
So we just want to make it absolutely clear that blasphemy and Islamophobia are exactly the same thing. But again, at the same time, we want to again just stress this so much. Islamophobia is criticism of Islam, not criticism of individual Muslims. Individual Muslims,
Which is wrong.
Which is
Don't
wrong.
Go after
Don't-
individual Muslims.
Yeah, individual Muslims have rights just like anyone else, but their ideas do not. So we just want to absolutely stress that.
Yes.
Okay.
Just like Christians.
Just like Christians.
We do draw an equivalence there.
Yeah.
We don't make any distinction.
Yeah, again, Islamophobia, blasphemy, they're actually just the same thing, but by a different name. So yeah, that was a good talk, Manny. I'm really happy with that. You happy with that?
I think I am, yeah. I
Okay.
probably would get some nice comments.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Leave some comments, guys, or hate speech, or whatever you want.
Yes.
But yeah, so thanks for tuning in. You can find us, you can find me on Twitter at Aaron Buki, and you can find Manny at Hipster Capitalist. Give us a shout out if you have any questions on there. Follow us, and feel free to share the video if you enjoyed it and give it a like.
Yes.
Thanks very much, guys.
We'll see you next time.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.